Okay, we're recording. Hi, everybody. It's Tarkan here with another video. How about that? I always say that. And I have somebody very special here with me today, Miss Sarah Dewhirst, or is it Mrs.? I don't know. You're from England, so I don't know what the standard is. Is that still a thing over in England?
Well, yeah, but it's so antiquated. I hate it. I'd rather just be called Sarah.
Yeah, we don't do it either. Mrs. It's like the American way, right? MISSUS. So Sarah is a self-love coach and has a YouTube channel, a new YouTube channel, right, that you just started.
That's right.
How old's your channel now? You've got quite a few videos.
About 3 months. About 3 months, I think.
3 months. So how many videos do you have up now? I was looking. It looks like you're doing about one every day, or?
Oh, no. I did last week. Probably 20 something like that.
Well, that's pretty good. All right. So you get into it. Yeah. Putting your toes in the water.
Yeah. Some of them are really little, but I think that's quite good to start with, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Well, you know, it's kind of like what you feel like doing, or some days, you know, even I have sort of, I don't know, I don't feel like it today, or I just need a little time for myself and not focus so much on other people's problems, right? And I've sometimes gotten comments like, Tarkan, we need you to upload a video. We need ideas. Good God, yes, relax, please. So, so tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a self-love coach and how you got into that. I know we chatted a bit beforehand, but maybe we'll do a little introduction again.
Okay. So I would say that I got into personal development when my kids started school, and I put loads of weight on, and I was just really unhealthy, and I decided that I was going to try and figure myself out. So I got into Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram. I don't know if you've heard of either of those two. Like
Myers-Briggs.
Psychology. Yeah.
And what's the other one?
The Enneagram.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that is.
No, it's quite different actually. It's based on fixations and motivations, the Enneagram, based on the deadly sins. So I know it's about passions and virtues. So essentially, where your attention goes and what your blind spot is in life. So it's quite interesting. Yeah.
And then you discovered Neville Goddard. You said, right?
I did. That's more recently. Yeah, it's only within the last few months that I discovered Neville. Yeah, I love Neville. It kind of blows you away, doesn't it, Neville? It
does. Yeah. It's well, you mentioned discovering it, and then sort of you had a moment where it was a little monotonous to you reading it, and then you kind of had a real epiphany, or you had a strong emotional response to what you were reading.
Very much so.
Something clicked, right?
Yeah. It's like, where have I been all my life?
Yeah, well,
I feel like I've been locked in a box.
Yeah, Pandora's box. Boom, there you go, right? Yeah, it's kind of like that sometimes when you sort of have a little awakening or a little something snaps, and you kind of go, what? This feels interesting. My new suit, my new light little monkey suit, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it kind of took me back to when I was a kid. All the things that he talks about, all the qualities and things. Like I was like that as a child, and everyone was like, "You're too nice. You're too this. You shouldn't see the good in people. Blah blah blah. You're too naive. You're too much of a dreamer. You spend too much time in your head. Get real. Focus on reality." So it just takes me back to essentially just lines up with exactly who I think I am.
That's something we all get to hear as a kid, isn't it, to some degree? I think that's pretty much across cultures and across any kind of society, social differences, and people as kids were told, you know, yes, just work hard and push, and forget all that stuff, that childish nonsense, and stop being a dreamer. You know, is that sort of, I mean, I sense that across the board, people have, and then they discover what we're talking about, you know, manifesting and law of attraction and reality creation, and then suddenly they're kind of getting into a mindset of, well, I have to now undo all that kind of training, but you don't really. You just have to sort of practice the new way of thinking now. Is that right? I mean, I tell people, you know, don't try to get rid of an old habit, just introduce a better new habit, right?
That's right. Yeah, I think it takes time, doesn't it? You've got to shift bit by bit and work through what makes sense to you. And I said this on Dan's video, quite often when you move from one level of consciousness to another, you have to kind of contradict your beliefs completely. So it is a bit of a leap. Yeah,
and that feels uncomfortable at first. It really does. Like you're you're trying out a new way of thinking and a new way of being, and it does kind of, oh, I don't know about this. It's like shedding your old skin. Maybe that's how a snake feels a little bit or something, right? It does, I gotta get out of this old crab shell, right? So I can grow a new one. What's what's a better, well, I get this a lot from people too, this impatience as well though, because they discover this stuff and now they want what they want, and they want it to work tomorrow or yesterday, right? And this idea of it being a process, sort of easing into it, is something that I always stress, but it's difficult. I mean, I can remember being very impatient. What's a thing that can help people be more patient, or that can sort of help them with this idea of this urgency, this sense of urgency they have, you know, especially I think as you're older in life, you discover this, you think, oh, I've wasted all these years, right, not knowing this, and now I want to get into it, right? I want to get going.
Yeah, I think resistance will teach you, essentially, just because when you have resistance and you're impatient, you block yourself. So you kind of learn the hard way, I suppose. Yeah.
So is there a way that, I mean, I suppose if it's, I always say the journey is that's really the thing to have fun with, right? I try to make the comparison to like a road trip. You know, nobody goes on a road trip just to get to the destination. I mean, you could fly there, you could, you know, take a bus or a train. Why drive somewhere? It's about the road trip, right? You get some friends together, you play some cool music, you get some snacks going, you see the sights along the way. So I try to use that kind of what is the word I'm looking for? It's a
analogy.
Thank you, analogy.
Yeah.
My brain goes.
Well, I know what you mean. I think you've got to be very humble on this journey, and you've got to accept that you're learning something new. It's almost like going back to being a child, isn't it? And learning to ride a bike or whatever. You've just got to be brave and learn from your mistakes and enjoy the good bits and tweak the bad bits. And yeah, you've just got to be persistent, like Neville says. Really.
Yeah, that's hard. And as a child, you don't really have that sense of past and future so much. You know, there's not much of a past to really become upset or disappointed over, and future seems so far away. You don't really worry so much as a kid about that. Children are very much in the moment, aren't they? So that's really what it comes down to, just learning to rediscover that being in the moment, being in the flow, right? Yeah.
I mean, I love the imaginative element of life. I've always been like that. I've always been more focused in my head than in reality. So sometimes it could be difficult because you just feel like you're so far away all the time, but then by the same token, I've always felt that that's kind of how I was supposed to live. And then when you come across Neville, you think, actually, I was doing it right all along, and it was other people that were telling me to get real, and it's them that's missing it, it's not me missing a trick.
Yeah, the little policeman in the head, right, that they put there when you're a little kid. You start policing yourself. That's how this whole thing is designed, right? They kind of get in your head, and then they go, okay, now just listen to the little cop in your head, right? Or the little Bobby, right, or whatever you have, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I renovate houses is something that I've really liked doing. I watched loads of programs on TV 10, 15 years ago about renovating houses, and I got really addicted to them. Mm-hmm. And you have to heavily use your imagination to do this, don't you? Because you're taking a leap of faith. You're going to buy a house that's wrecked and do it up. But my vision was always so strong for the houses, and I always felt so driven by it. It was almost like the vision just kind of, it's like the stars are pulling your hair, isn't it? It's like we're going this way, whether we like it or not, because I love it and it's fab. But also, I just think because I was so excited by it, I felt like I was connected to inflow. It's almost like you're a conduit. This is what Abraham Hicks talks about. You're like a conduit for force energy to flow through you, so you just feel amazing. It's like you've got champagne flowing through your veins when you're doing whatever it is you're supposed to be doing. And renovating houses to most people is quite difficult, but to me it's just like play. I just love it, and I love it when things go wrong. And I just
did you play with that? Did you play with doll houses as a child? Or you probably did, didn't you? Yeah. So you're getting into the play element of it. See, that's the thing, right? You're not making it work. You're not making it a task or I got to get up today and do this thing so I can make money, or so I can live and so I can have a career. It's the task for the task's sake, and then all the things that kind of are necessary for you to thrive and live in your life just kind of attach to that passion and that love automatically, don't they? I mean, it's sort of like you find something that you just can't, like, I like that, the stars pulling your hair. I like that very much, right?
It does
They
feel like
don't have much to pull here, but but you know, it's interesting. I've thought about this so many times. Like, you know, I've struggled in life to find my kind of path, and I've tried many different paths, you know, career paths. Gone to college and university and was going to go into academia, and that didn't work out. Now, you mentioned something in one of your videos recently where you said sometimes the universe knows what you want better than you do, right?
Yeah.
And that sort of pulling, the stars pulling your hair or yanking or tugging you on the sleeve, right? Come on over here,
yeah.
Come on over here. When you're thinking, no, but this is what I want, or this is what I think I'm supposed to want.
Yeah.
What's that? What is that? In your estimation, what gets rid of that kind of resistance, or what helps people? Because, you know, there's also the element, and I said people on my channel are very much into, you know, attracting a specific person, a relationship with a specific person. And I sometimes say to them, listen, you got to be open to the prospect that it could be somebody even better than who you think and who you've made the symbol of your desire right now, right? And some people are they're so tied, they're hanging on so tightly to this person and that symbol, it's got to be them. I say, well, I'm not saying it won't be them, but I'm saying it ain't going to be anybody if that's how you're holding on like that, right? And I say self-love comes into the play. So let's talk about that a little bit, since that's something that you seem to specialize in. Is why is it so important? You know, and I tell people all the time, it's important to focus on yourself, especially if you want to attract love from another. To focus on yourself. Why is it so important? What is it that?
Well, I think if you focus on other people and trying to please other people, then you just lose yourself completely, and you end up giving your energy away. And then when you give your energy away, you feel off balance, and then it's almost like it's like you're drowning, so you need more and more and more of a fix, and you're looking in the wrong place. Definitely. I mean, since I've learned about Neville and I understand now about your thoughts creating, then if you don't love yourself, you think negatively, so you then project and you then experience negative on the outside. So there's no point trying to be nice to somebody else but then not being nice to yourself on the inside, because it just doesn't work. The universe does not work that way. Yeah,
how do you give love to someone if you don't even know how to give love to yourself, right? Because it's going to be a codependent relationship. It's going to be a one-sided relationship in that sense. Putting all that pressure on the other person to prop you up all the time and to give you validation all the time. You said it's like a fix. It's true. It's like a drug. You get that little adrenaline rush, right? Or that little push of dopamine. It's like when we get a like or something on a Facebook post, or, you know, and we get that little, ooh, people like what I posted and people are paying attention to me. But then when we don't, we feel worthless and horrible. Like we want that little fix, right? I get this from people. They want the text message from them. They want to sort of micromanage every step of the process. What do you really want? Do you want that push? Do you want that little fix? Do you want that little bit of attention? Because you'll feel good for about an hour, maybe a day, and then you're going to want it again. Or do you want ultimately that healthy, mutual, respectful relationship with them? And then you have to work on yourself. You have to understand, you have to get to the point where, why do I need them to fulfill that part of me, right?
Yeah.
And it's difficult.
That feeling of loss is essentially just a disconnection from yourself. It feels like it's a loss from something outside, but it's not. It's loss of connection to self.
Yeah.
Which can be difficult. I know if you're growing up, and like we said earlier, if who you are as a person is not valued or recognized as a child, you end up learning to kind of disown who you are in order to get love from other people, and you then are trained to ignore your inner guidance and things, your own feelings and your own perceptions and things that are important to you. You know, if other people are telling you then that that's bad and that you shouldn't think this and shouldn't do that, then you're just basically taught to ignore yourself. So then you are constantly looking outside yourself for someone to validate you, because you're taught to where you should get validation on the inside. That's not valid, and you're taught to ignore it. So that's where the problem is. You tune back into your own thoughts, feelings, perceptions, desires, all that kind of thing. And then if you very quickly do that, if you start to feel yourself losing yourself and you're getting a wobble, pull your energy back, start to focus on yourself. It's just like I feel amazing again. And it's really quite quick, to be fair. But it does, I think when you're not used to it, it could take a little while to actually put your attention on yourself if you're not used to doing that, because you can feel quite guilty and selfish for giving your attention to yourself if it's something that's not, if it feels counterintuitive.
Yeah, I get that a lot from people. They're very afraid. I'm getting a lot of feedback here. Are you getting? I'm hearing my voice booming, I think, in your room. But I get that a lot from people. They're scared to take that step towards self-love and self-appreciation and self-acceptance, because they do have that little thing in there going, well, isn't that just selfishness, right? Isn't that just narcissism? Isn't that just, I've been taught, like you said, no, that's not okay, right? You're supposed to give and not ask for too much, right? Not receive too much. That it's sort of almost gluttonous in a sense, right? To do that. Why do you think that is? Why are we taught that? I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? And I said earlier, it seems to be across cultures, right? It's not just sort of in the West or in the East. It seems to be a worldwide kind of human phenomenon, this sense of giving and not receiving or asking for too much, or just the sense of, well, I'm selfish if I'm just focusing on myself, right? I don't know, what do you think it is? I think it's systemic, or it's... I
think it's, I don't know whether it's partly to do with religion and thinking that the power's outside of us. It's a cultural thing, isn't it? Where we're taught to please other people. You know, if your kids are misbehaving in the supermarket and they're upset, a lot of parents are more concerned with, shut up, be quiet, you're making everybody else uncomfortable, you're making a scene. It's almost like you care about what a random stranger thinks rather than whether your kids are okay. No. And how they're processing their feelings. We're very much guided by what's going on outside, which is the wrong way, is completely the wrong way to go about it. But I think not until you've tried it that way and realised that it drives you crazy trying to please, everybody else and not yourself.
It's a never-ending job.
Yeah.
It never ends. Yes, it's always... Yeah. You're going to do that rest of your life, and you're going to exhaust yourself. Your energy is going to be
You're always coming up against a wall, aren't you? You want, I want to do this, but I can't do that because this will upset such and such, or I'm going to feel really in pain if I upset this person, and you end up just being stuck in prison because you can't get out.
And if you want to please other people all the time, those people will never be pleased. There's never going to be an end to it. All right, there's never going to be a point when your parents are going to go, now I accept you completely and all your decisions fully. Now I love you more than your brother, or whatever it is, right? Or whatever it is you're looking for, whatever that golden goose that you're chasing, right? That you can't ever catch it. It's just, it's a never-ending job. And I think turning that inward, there is a sort of a fulfillment there. There's an end to that. There's a sort of I love myself, and it can be enough, right? There's not this. Do you know what I'm saying? It's sort of. It's like the drug thing that I was mentioning earlier. If I'm constantly looking for validation from somebody else, somebody I have my eye on, somebody I have a crush on, it's a never-ending thing. Even if I do manifest a relationship with them, what kind of a relationship will it be? Because I'm looking constantly for them. Oh, he hasn't texted me, or she hasn't texted me in an hour. What's going on? Or she threw a smile at that guy, or she's wants to go off and do her own thing for a little while, and now it's making me feel insecure, like I'm being rejected, and it just never ends, right? And
it just doesn't work, does it? It's there to teach you to turn back to yourself, because the outside is just a projection of what's going on the inside.
No, right. So do you deal with this with your clients? Do you deal a lot with relationships? They come to you with
relationships. I suppose the main things are relationships, career, health. It's the main things that people all come. You get stuck, don't you? And you just realise that you've got to just think, to hell with everyone else. I'm just going to do my thing. And when you first start doing it, you can feel a bit selfish and you feel a bit like rebellious, but then people don't notice. And I think the more that you kind of step into your authentic self, as long as you own it, people accept it. It's when you're dithering about and you don't own it that it doesn't work.
They sense it almost energetically. There's something not authentic about this person. They're not being real. They're not being themselves. Yeah. You've met people like that. I've met people like that, and you kind of go, they make you a little uncomfortable. Right? Like, what's going on here? Something's not right. Why don't you just drop that ego thing, or just get rid of this thing and just show me who you really are, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So when they do come to you, what's the process? What do you, like, what's the framework? Walk me through how does one go about getting their ex back, their specific person, from your angle, from your perspective?
Okay, well, essentially you've got to put the focus completely back on yourself, because the only relationship really is with yourself. The relationship you have with yourself is mirrored into the relationship that you have with other people. So just working on yourself. I know Abraham Hicks talks about this, doesn't she? She basically says that it's all about you. It's all about your own alignment, and tickle to everyone else, because when you focus on yourself, you are connected to who you're supposed to be, and you're automatically compassionate and interesting and content. You don't demand things from other people because you don't feel that desperate need, to leech onto somebody else's energy. So it just works. That way. So I guess initially talk about self-love. So what exactly is self-love? What's involved in it? Essentially, it's just like loving somebody else, but doing that for yourself, and valuing yourself, respecting yourself, understanding that you are going to make mistakes and that you're allowed to learn from your mistakes, and not beating yourself up. I think mindset focus is a massive one. I think, especially since reading and understanding Neville, you understand quite to just the full extent to how important your thoughts are, because they are creating your reality. So it doesn't matter whether you're trying to do things on the outside. If you don't change on the inside, you're just spinning your wheels, aren't you? Yeah,
right. Well, and also there's another level of resistance that I find a lot with this idea of almost being afraid to have what it is that you want, your desire, manifest, on a level of either I'm not good enough for it to manifest, or something is always going to, the other shoe is always going to drop, right? There's that level of fear of, or am I even allowed to ask for this thing? Why would I ask? Because I think, and it's very true, if you don't start with a basis of self-love and self-appreciation, and you have your eye on another, you're always going to try to also on some level prove yourself to them or qualify yourself to them, which is and I see that as being, in that sense, an unattractive quality, right? And if we're talking about law of attraction, there's a way of being attractive on the inside, and there's a way of being attractive in terms of energy, offering energy, the type of energy you're offering. There's a sort of repellent energy. Like we said, people aren't being authentic, or we sense that people aren't really understanding their true power. So you're going to probably, from that standpoint, attract people who are also very much not in touch with themselves and their power and their personal appreciating themselves and loving themselves. So you tend to have sort of relationships with people that are going to be either, dysfunctional on some level because you're not aligned. Abraham Hicks says that a lot too. I think she had a lady ask, how do I get my son to, have a better relationship with his girlfriend or something like that? And she said, well, he has to first, he's always going to attract that kind of girl. This isn't about her coming in and changing him and then making him a better person. It's about, he has to start on that level of being okay with himself and aligning with what he wants and being who he wants to be, being the person that has what he wants, right? That's another end of it. So Neville talks about that, I believe, and I'm not sure, the idea you have to become what you want, you have to become your desire. Isn't that a Neville thing?
It is a Neville thing, yeah. You've basically got to assume and embody whatever you want to be, and that's then what makes it happen. So you've got to get change on the inside. There used to be a program I used to like watching when I was a kid called Mr. Ben, and it was this guy, and he would go to a shop and he would try on an outfit, and then he would go through a door and have an adventure, and then at the end he would come back and put his clothes on and go home.
Was this on British television?
Yeah. It's a long time ago now. But
that's funny.
Yeah, it was fab. I used to love it.
What was it called, Mr.
Ben?
Mr. Ben. I'm gonna have to look that up. That must be was it a British BBC kind of thing, or?
Yeah, probably from the 80s, maybe.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up.
Really.
So
funny.
That's an interesting one. That's one that gets misunderstood too. This idea of living in the end, right? I think people tend to get caught up in the acts, in the sort of the techniques, and how do I visualize? Am I doing it correctly? Okay, I'm lying there and I'm gonna, But is that really what living in the end is, right? Is it really just imagining the scene, or is there something deeper that maybe even Neville kind of tried to get something deeper out of it, which is the idea of actually really putting yourself into the state of mind of the person you would be if this thing was happening, right? And really that isn't even such a big leap. If you think about anything that you have that you once wanted, that you now have, it feels normal, doesn't it? There's no like, you're not bouncing off the walls and doing cartwheels in the park. You're just sort of going, almost a sense of taking it for granted a little bit. Like, of course I have that, right? Is that sort of so it's an attitude, right? I mean, what do you think about that, the living in the end and the visualizing, and how does that tie into
yeah, I think the thing is, if you dream of something that you want, but you don't think you're worthy of it, then it is difficult to live in the end and maintain that belief that, yes, I'm worthy of the thing that I want. And that's where people fall down, don't they? Because then doubts will start creeping in. If you don't kind of believe in your own power, believe in your own worth, then you're going to start having contradictory thoughts, which then put the brakes on. So,
also making that thing very large in your mind, the thing that you want the most. We all have things we want. We manifest things all the time and very easily, right? But that's only because we put them on the other end of that scale, right? That's sort of very unimportant. We want it, but it's okay if we don't have it. But then the thing, you know, the money or the lottery win or the house or the person, the relationship, we make that so large in our heads. We blow it up like it's this rare thing, right? And I did a video like, if you think, you know, what is it? If you think it's rare, you'll rarely see it, or something like that. I can't remember. I was feeling very clever that day. But you know, it's you have to let some of the air out of it a little bit, right? You have to deflate that thing a little bit, make yourself kind of bigger than it, right? Is it sort of make yourself more important than the end result that you're after, and just see it as a result of you, just a reflection of you getting to a place within yourself that is more acceptable to you, to your mind, right? Like, of course that's going to happen. Of course they like me. Of course they're going to text me. Of course they're going to chase me. Of course I'm going to get money, right? Of course I'm going to get that job, right? So it's you had another video, and I watched it briefly this morning about putting yourself on a pedestal. And I've said that before too, and that's one that gets misunderstood. It ties back into that whole, well, what you're trying to be better than they are. You're trying to, what? Can you talk about that a little bit briefly?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to put yourself on a pedestal if you're healthy, but if you are struggling with self-love, then it is just an exercise to help you see how inaccurately you're valuing yourself. And it just gives you an example of, if you put yourself on a pedestal and think about all the things that you're good at and all the things that other people like about you, then it just helps you to be a bit more objective about who you are. And I don't say it as in think you're better than anybody else, because obviously that's a recipe for disaster, but it's just an exercise to help you.
Yeah, right.
You sort of see yourself as you should see yourself. You know, more.
So I like that. If you're already loving yourself, you're already okay in that aspect, but then you kind of start thinking you're better, put yourself on a pedestal. That's going into sort of the unenlightened selfish territory a little bit, right? So we're talking about enlightened selfishness or enlightened self-interest, right? So it's sort of a not seeing yourself as better, but at least seeing yourself as equal to the other people in your life, right? And the people that you want to attract. So then they're not better than me. There's nothing for me to prove to them, right? And on that level, we can approach each other as equals and on equal footing. And that's when you have the best relationships and the best friendships and the best even work and family relationships, right? There's I don't know, I'm not a parent, but I imagine even as a parent, there must be a sort of an authoritative, I know better than you know, right? You have two boys, you said, and I don't know how old they are. Are they? You mentioned it, but
they are 13 and 11, and it's not very parent-child in my house. It's just like we're all humans. I've lived here a bit longer than you, but I mean, my son is much more grounded than me, and he'll say to me, "Mom, you're such a space cadet," you know. And he just, I mean,
perfect.
When I make mistakes, I said, "Does it annoy you?" And he was like, "No, I just find it funny." Because Luke, my eldest son Lucas, he's complete space cadet as well, so we're both the same.
Oh, he's more like mom, yeah? Okay.
He's much more in his head, much more into innovation and potential and what's coming. He's not very grounded in reality either, so it's quite fun.
Well, good, maybe. That's a good thing, perhaps. Not too grounded in reality, right? But that's kind of the thing. Okay, so you have an understanding of, I'm here to guide you, right? I'm here to make sure you don't walk out into the street, when you're a certain age. I'm here to make sure you don't stick a fork in the socket or, put that thing in your mouth. But if you get sick, I'll drive you to the hospital or I'll buy the food. Mm-hmm. But you see them as sort of this, there is a level of, they are their own people. They're on their own journey, right? You're probably learning a bunch from them, right? So there's even, in that sense, when you can see yourself in that level, I always think parents that are very strict and authoritarian are also feeling very insecure, right? And that can play out in relationships. That can play out in romantic relationships, these kind of like, dominant, sort of more submissive partners and this kind of thing. It's interesting to me that there's a level of almost everyone across the board that says to me, comes to me and says, I want this person back. I want Billy or Bob or Sarah back. They see themselves as somehow on some level kind of submissive to that person in a sense, right? Or wanting them to sort of give them permission to feel good about themselves, right? Give me permission so I can be happy, And if I think back on all the times when I had really good relationships, I manifested them. I always got happy first, but it took a while to make that connection because I would think the same. I would go, well, now they're gone out of my life, or they seem to be. Now I'm not happy anymore because they came in and I became happy. But if I'm going to be honest with myself, always just before they showed up, I was feeling okay, right? I had a moment of like, who cares? Who cares? It's fine. I don't know what's going to happen here. I would prefer this, but I give up, right? There's that. And then suddenly something can flow and boom, they're just enhancing that state or reflecting that state, right? So what is the, I know we're riffing here. Yeah, you like to use that term. We're not so much an interview. I go off on tangents. Ask anyone to watch my channel. I get Tarkan's talking about something else, right? Okay. I'll pull myself back in for a minute. But we've talked about too, in videos I've talked about letting go and giving up, right? There's also a kind of a misunderstanding about that in terms of manifesting, because I always say, well, letting go is just letting go of resistance. But sometimes it can feel like giving up. Sometimes it comes out of when you've pushed so hard for so long, you have that feeling like, God, to hell with this, right? I'm sick of it. Fine, I give up. But actually what you're doing is you're just releasing all the resistance you've been pouring into that.
You're giving up on the need, aren't you, for it? Just get rid of the tension, I suppose, because it just blocks you and it feels awful.
Let it unfold the way it needs to. Because it has to. Yeah, you're interfering. That's another thing Abraham says that I really love, that you are a cooperative component. You are the cooperative component in your manifestations and what you want to attract. Everything else is lined up. It's ready to go, right? It's kind of like, okay, showtime, but where's the lead actor, Where's the leading lady or the leading man? Where are they? Our star isn't here. They're off in the corner crying or freaking out in the bathroom like, but hey, the stage is all set for you, but we need you here. We can't go put the show on without you, right?
That's it. Just stop trying, stop efforting and just relax.
Yes, just relax. That's hard to do. So how do you do that? How do you relax? When you're thinking about something you want so bad and 24/7 you're thinking about it, you lose it. How do I just stop doing that, right?
I think meditation's a good one. Gratitude or appreciation for all the things. I was doing a bit of an appreciative thing the other day, and I was just going around my kitchen and I was saying, I'm grateful for this, and I was like, I'm so grateful for my microwave because I put food in it uncooked and it comes out cooked.
Yeah, perfect. Think about my ancestors. They didn't have that option, right? They had to lug wood from outside and put it, There's so many fab things that we have that we're just oblivious to, and we focus on the one thing that's missing rather than everything else that we've got, and it just feels awful. So I think definitely gratitude. What else I want to say? And focusing back on yourself. Just focus back on yourself. Get lost in something. I particularly like doing something creative or learning something new. I think learning's fantastic for capturing your attention, and it definitely brings you into the present, especially if you're learning something that fascinates you. Definitely learning is a big one.
or mastering a new skill, maybe volunteering, just something that you want to do that moves you towards who you want to be. Put that focus back on yourself, and then very quickly you realize, once you focus back on yourself and connect it back to yourself, that feeling of loss goes, that feeling of attachment and need just disappears. And I think probably the best thing about manifesting, I know I find this with renovating, is being just on the cusp of the manifestation is actually better than actually getting the manifestation. It's like a kid on Christmas Eve, isn't it? It's like, woo!
Yeah, and
right here.
Anticipation. It's exciting.
Yeah.
So then, right, so that's part of kind of the journey is the thing, right? Make the journey the enjoyable thing. Make waiting for Christmas the enjoyable thing. It's that pre-Christmas time, or if you celebrate Christmas. But you know, it's that sort of sense of, ooh, it's about to happen. Ooh, anticipation, that little butterflies in the belly, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I had a friend as a kid who was an avid comics collector, and he always was after this #1 issue of this particular comic series from the 40s, you know, and he was a very entrepreneurial kid even then, you know, at age 12 or 13. And it was, you know, he was so obsessed with getting this the first edition of this thing, and finally he managed to get it and save up enough money for it. And I remember being out with him somewhere, we were getting lunch somewhere, you know, we're kids, and he calls home, and his brother, this is before cell phones, and his little brother goes, it's here. And he goes, okay, well, we're gonna walk home slowly. And his little brother couldn't understand it, and I couldn't understand why he wasn't more excited. You've been wanting this, and it finally came in the mail. And he was like, well, it almost feels like it's over now. It wasn't even the getting it, or it wasn't even the having it. It was the getting it, right? He was sort of like, okay.
I've got a quote on my Facebook, and it says, to gain your heart's desire is to lose your heart's desire. And it's like, yeah, that I think that time just before you get it is the best bit, because as soon as you get it, it's exciting for a bit, and then it goes. I know when I renovate houses, I get really excited about the way a room will look, and then I'm excited when it's finished, and then I'm excited to show it to my family and friends, and then after a week it's like, oh, next.
Yeah. What's next? Right, I want to keep moving here, I want to keep growing, I want to keep expanding.
It's because it's the feeling. It's the feeling of creating that is the thing that everybody's looking for. It's not the thing. It's that champagne flowing through your veins feeling of creativity. Definitely.
It's that flow, right? It's being so lost in something that you all time and space collapses. You have no sense of it, and you know that's what you did as a kid. That's what we did, right? When we played with our toys or got into our imagination. You watch kids now, and they're having a conversation with their doll. I don't know what, you know, but you remember that time where it's like there's no sense of anything else going on around you, right? There's nothing else is bothering you so much. That's a thing that also Abraham talks about. Actually, wait a minute, you just mentioned something and it made me think of that. The idea that you know what? I lost my train of thought. So I'm not even...
It's where she says you want to be happy with where you are and eager for more. Is it that?
That's what it is. Be okay with where you are while reaching for more, but also the idea that it's never done. You can't. That's what it was. It's never finished. You're never going to be finished. We come here in some sense for the journey, for the completion, for the expansion of it, not for the completion of anything, because there really is nothing to complete anyway, right? So everything's already completed. Everything's already kind of done, but it's your, like you said, the rediscovering of it. It's the journey back to the thing that you already know, but that you sort of walked through this veil and forgot willingly so that you could rediscover it. You have the joy of rediscovering your own power and your own understanding of things, right? That's something exciting about mystery. I almost don't want to know everything, right? There's a part where I go, oh, I could figure that out. I'll chase that answer because I love the law of attraction. I got into this. You know, I've been into UFOs, I've been into ghosts, and it always fascinated me because I always love that there's another question out there. There's another thing for me to find an answer for, right? And I think that at some point there was a time when I was so I want the answer. What is it? Are there aliens? Are they, you know, what's the thing? I'll never know, but it's okay now that I'll never know, probably. Or maybe I will, but then there'll be another thing to answer. I like the mystery. I like the feeling that there's things out there that maybe I'll never understand, but it's fun to try, right? Yeah. That's the journey aspect of it.
It's the quest. It's good. It is good. I love that. I love learning because I think learning makes you very present as well, doesn't it? It makes you very in the moment.
Puts you in the flow.
Yep.
Did you renovate your own house?
Oh, I've renovated numerous houses. Yeah.
The one you're in now. This is.
Yes. Yeah. This is the kitchen extension. That I'm sat in, and I can. Nice. Well, you would be able to see my little summer house where I normally do my videos, but it's pitch black now because it's evening.
Yeah. I saw it in your most recent videos, right? You had a couple, and I thought, where is she? She said summer house. Is she somewhere in France right now, or southern France? Because it looked like England. It looked sunny and and nice and sort of balmy. And I thought, I'm here in Portland, the Pacific Northwest. It's already starting to rain all the time now, and it's dark. Yeah.
The weather is changing, but it's still quite nice. I think we are due for a bit of a wet week, so it's we need to start adjusting a little bit, don't we?
I'm happy for it. Fall is coming. I have my fall flavored kombucha, which I never used to drink, but now somebody got me into kombucha, so now I drink it religiously. It's very nice. So is there anything you want to add? I think we probably covered quite a lot here today. I know we jumped back and forth a little bit. You want to talk? Is there something else you want to say? Something you want to leave people with?
I would just say that self-acceptance is a biggie. Accepting where you are, accepting that everybody's had things happen to them in the past that have, blocked them or caused them problems, and that you have a right to be who you are and to just work through them at your own pace and not beat yourself up just because if you maybe feel that you're further behind than other people. Just go at your own pace and be humble. And if you make a mistake, then just say, I'm going to try not to make that mistake again, and just keep changing, because eventually you are going to get to where you want to be. You are going to find that, that balance. And with self-love, I find that whenever you feel wobbly and you feel that you're looking for a fix outside yourself, or a false god, as Neville would call it, then always go back to self. Because as soon as you pull your energy back into yourself, you feel stable again. It's so key.
There's so much more to discover that you don't even realize. I say that to people too. You want this one thing, but what if this one thing showed up in your life? What if what you were really attracting, what your real deep desire was for expansion, was to learn your own power? And then this was offered to you as a catalyst for that, as a vehicle for you to get there, right? It's going to push you. It's going to be a little challenging, and don't be so afraid of the challenges. Don't be so afraid of even falling on your butt every now and then, or getting up again, because that's part of the process of really getting back to your understanding of your power and who you really are, and your larger self, right? Because I always say you'll get what you want, but once you do, there'll be so many more things that you never realized were possible suddenly pouring in. Go ahead, you.
I was just going to say, with Neville, you understand that other people are a reflection of you. So if you love somebody so much on the outside, essentially it's just your own qualities that you're seeing in that other person anyway. So they are yours. So it's not, you don't need them from somebody else. They're yours.
No.
It's you and I think that's something to be celebrated, and to work on the things that come back to you that you don't like, but also focus on the nice things about yourself that are amazing. And explore.
And if you don't like somebody, that it's the same way. It's the other way around too. They're reflecting something back to you that you don't like about yourself, right? I get that sometimes. I meet someone, why am I annoyed by this guy? Oh, he's doing something that I'm annoyed about in my own self, right? Or some habit that I've practiced, or I still practice, that okay, I see now, right? It's not about him or changing his behavior or getting him to show up differently. It's just about me showing up differently. Now I can identify, and thank you for showing up and showing me that about myself, right? If you look at it that way, it's kind of like, oh, thank you, difficult person. Thank you, difficult, challenging situation, for being there. Because without you, I'd be out here just floating on a raft, so with no compass and no map and no understanding of where I even am, and much less where I want to be and how to get there, right? It's like you can't get there from here or whatever it is. Yeah, you need that. It's a chart. It's there to help you and guide you, even if it feels like absolute crud in the moment. Accept it and be okay. Be brave enough to say thank you for that, right? And then watch it dissipate too. The moment you learn that lesson, boom, it almost like just moves out of your life. It's done. Okay, good. It worked. That's all we needed. That's all you needed from that. So then the next thing can happen. Yeah. Excellent. Well, this has been fun. what's your channel? Sarah Dewhirst, right? I'm going to put a link to it.
Yeah.
In the description box. I always say subscription box. I don't know why, because I think I get confused when I say, please people subscribe. And then I don't say describe, but I say subscription box. So anyway, please go to Sarah's channel and subscribe to her channel. As you can tell, she's a wonderful, very warm person, and very interesting to speak with and very knowledgeable. So I've had a lot of fun. And I think we should do this again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That'd be cool.
How about tomorrow? Nice. Are you free tomorrow? Okay, no, I'm not. We'll do it in future. Also, there's a great video. You did an interview with Dan, Radio Style.
I did, yeah, a while ago. Yeah,
amazing. Yeah. Have you chatted with 𝗪𝗪 yet? 𝗪𝗪𝗶𝗴𝗃?
Not so far. No, I don't know 𝗪𝗪 yet. No, I've watched a lot of her videos though. She's great. She loves Neville, doesn't she?
Yes, she does. Yeah,
she's very nerdy when it comes to Neville.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, all that's going to happen. So, So go also to Sarah's channel. You can see an interview with Dan there, and several other people, interesting people I noticed. You've done quite a few of those. Riffs and collaborations with others, so there's some interesting people on there, right? Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for chatting with us today. All right.
Yeah, it's been good to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll hit stop record on this, and thank you guys for watching. And remember to subscribe if you like the cut of my jib, and if you like the cut of Sarah's jib, which why wouldn't you go over there and subscribe? And thanks for watching as always. And until next time, bye bye.